going on? No horsing around. Family. Zach Boyd back at it again. Breaking news. Carolina Panthers have traded with Chicago Bears. And this directly impacts the Indianapolis Colts. You don't trade up to number 1 to not take a quarterback. So you can just assume pick 1, pick 2 is going to be quarterback. I would assume, not sure about the order, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, they're going to go in 1 and 2. I don't know in which direction. A lot of people are thinking C.J. Stroud to the Panthers, then Young to the Texans, which would make a lot of sense. Frank Reich seems to covet those types of quarterbacks, that bigger, prototypical style quarterback in the pocket, extremely accurate. And I'll just say this, just my initial thoughts, my initial reaction is, I think this really affects us. I think the drop-off after that, of course, you've got Richardson. Of course, you've got Levis. But the talent gap is pretty big, if you ask me. I mean, it really is. And there's even a chance that someone jumps up past us at 3 and trades with the Cardinals, because we really can't offer a lot to go from 4 to 3, right? Like why would you? You know the team ahead of you is not taking a quarterback. You can't really afford to give the incentive that a team further back would be willing to give. Maybe the Raiders, somebody that might be a trade partner. It's really, really hard to believe that with everything that was given up from Chicago, and it's a nice haul for Chicago, no doubt about it, it's still hard for me to believe that Chris Ballard just didn't find a way to get this done. I know he had to have been in the mix, but I suspected from the very beginning that he was going to be cheap. He was going to try to play the patient game. And once again, you see these scenarios where you have to make quick-witted decisions as a general manager in the NFL, and that's just not how he operates. He wants to take his time. He wants to be thorough. He wants to really negotiate. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't negotiate. That doesn't mean he wasn't a part of this trade, negotiation. But when it came down to it, he's just not willing to give up the players that it would take to get, that number 1 pick overall, when it was clearly in the combine. Ryan Poles put it out there. We're open for business. We're keeping Justin Fields, and we're open for business. The Panthers have been committed, and now they're going to practice what they preach, right? They went out and they said, we're going to get a quarterback and we're going to fix this thing once and for all. And to allow a team who's in a nice spot to jump you when you are in the 4th spot, that's just really hard for me to let that sink in, if I'm being 100% honest. You never know. You never know the circumstances. You never know what was behind all of it. You never know what Chicago might have been asking from us. They got a really good football player, and they got a lot of draft picks. They went back 8 spots. Now, good news is they did acquire some talent, some future picks. Bad news is, in my opinion, Chicago was the worst team in the NFL. And now you go back to 9, and you're not going to get a definite guaranteed blue chip defensive player. So for me, a little error in judgment, in my opinion. I think I would have been a little bit more willing to sit this one out and see if I couldn't drive the price up with the Colts if it were me. Just from the standpoint is, you go from 1 to 4, you have a much better opportunity, to still get one of those guys. I mean, Will Anderson is still a possibility. If Arizona decides to pass on them or trade for a quarterback, let a quarterback needy team trade with them. That's the only maybe, little bit of a, mark against Chicago, but they had a great haul. They did a great job negotiating this. They got out in front of it, and they just took care of it. Good for Carolina. And I'm calling this the Frank Reich Revenge Tour. And ultimately, I think it's fair to say Chris Ballard is who he is at this point. That's not going to change. I know there's a lot of expectations that will change. I don't see it. Doesn't seem like that's just not in his DNA. I don't think you'll ever see a real philosophy change. And for whatever reason, we'll sit there and we'll hang pat at 4 and we'll spin it to whatever direction we can get. And ultimately, we're going to come away with a quarterback this offseason. Don't know who that would be. Would love to know your comments. Would you pivot now? Would you go to Lamar Jackson and see what you could do? Are you good with Richardson? Are you good with Levis? Are you going to stay at 4? Are you going to try to make a move to get up to 3 to secure and guarantee you're going to get the 3rd pick, which would be a quarterback in this NFL draft? We just want to know your thoughts, your initial reaction. How do you feel about the trade? Who won? Who lost? What would you do if you were the general manager And if you haven't joined this family, guys, we invite you to join the No Horsing Around family. Like, rate, review, share, subscribe. Most importantly, comment and use your voice on here. Until next time, guys, as always, go Colts.